First thing that I feel that is a waste of money when it comes to your first apartment is covering certain areas of your home with aesthetically pleasing contact paper. I've talked about this in the past before, but I feel like with social media, this has become more popular. And with contact paper being very aesthetically pleasing now, like more options, people are doing this. The reason why I say it's a waste of money is because you will eventually move, and to do something or to spend money just for the looks, it's just never worth it. I've been through that route with buying things just for the looks and for that particular moment. And now that I'm older, I wish I would have saved that money. So I don't think covering your kitchen with contact paper is worth it, or your bathroom, or the tiles of your floor. Yes, apartments are most likely to be outdated because let's be honest, apartments are investments. So most landlords are not going to make their their investment property to be super modern. The tiles are from like 2003, the cabinets are from 2001. They're not just going to update them to like the standards of today with people regarding like aesthetics. If things are still working, most landlords will just keep it, because if it's not broken, why fix it? And like I said, most apartments are investments for some people, so dipping into funds to update the place, even though it doesn't need an update, can sometimes ruin the investment. Long story short, if you live in an apartment that is outdated, I have lived in outdated apartments my entire life. It is okay. It is okay to have an old carpet. It's okay to have cabinets from 1990 something. And our bathroom is entirely pink, and as much as I hate it, and we've been living here for 4 years, I've had thoughts of like covering it all up and like making it more white and modern. But then in the back of my head, I'm like, why am I gonna spend my money when I know for a fact that we will move? So we've lived here for 4 years, and I've just been dealing with what this place looks like. It is what it is. Is it my style? No. But I'm saving a ton of money by not adding contact paper or trying to make it look the way that I want it to look. It's just not worth the money. Like, I'd rather spend that money on a property that I own. I feel like it just makes more sense to save your money. Again, not everything needs to look perfect. I do want to add too, like, if there are certain things that are broken, definitely mention to your landlord, especially if you didn't break those items. You want to mention those broken items to your landlord. Like if a cabinet is broken, the AC is not working, like if you have a wall AC, the fridge isn't working, that one of the tiles is smashed, you definitely want to report that stuff, because when you move out, you do not want to be reliable for things that you did not break. So I think that's the only thing you should worry about when it comes to looks, is if something is broken, call or text your landlord and just get those things that are broken fixed, and forget trying to make your place look aesthetically pleasing. It's not worth it. Another thing that I find that is a total waste of money, and this is for anybody, this is not just for your first apartment, but this is for anybody that cleans. I have been through this route quite a few times. There is a thing of being too frugal, and this is something that I had to deal with and learn. And I remember buying like the cheap little handheld vacuums, whether they were name brands or not, they wouldn't last. My back was hurting. Also just cheap vacuums in general. I had to replace them quite often. The best thing that I did was buy a Dyson. Now I know Dysons are expensive. I suggest to do your research. There's also Shark. Shark is really good as well. Do your research, wait for a sale. I waited for a sale back in 2019 or 2018. It was around Black Friday, around those times, and I got my Dyson V8 for, I think it was like $128. I do want to mention that things were cheaper back then, but waiting for a sale to get a higher quality vacuum will save you money in the long run, because it's 2025 and I still have that same vacuum. I also want to mention taking care of your things is a huge plus, because when you take care of your things, they'll take care of you, and you won't have to replace them as often. So I highly recommend getting a higher quality vacuum. It's more of an investment because it's gonna last you way longer than a cheaper vacuum. Again, you're gonna move, you're gonna go to different places, and that vacuum can go with you. So you want to constantly purchase a new cheap vacuum. It's best to just save the money, wait for a sale, and get something high quality than to be a little bit too frugal like I used to back in the day. Another thing that I think is a total waste of money, I could be biased about this, but super expensive furniture, either just for the looks. I mean, if it's high quality, then go for it. But for your first apartment, I wouldn't. I would rough it out as much as you could, or as you can, I should say. When I lived alone, I only had like 2 pieces of furniture. I had a table that was from Walmart. It was $80. It came with 4 chairs. Again, this is back in 2017 where things were cheaper. So I had that cheap table that lasted me for like 3 years of me living alone, and then I donated it to somebody. And then I had a couch, which I paid $600 for. And at the time, I thought that was like way too expensive, which it was, because the quality wasn't that good. I should have just went on like Facebook Market or clearance section of furniture places and grabbed something a little bit cheaper. But I was also going for aesthetics back then. The crazy thing is you never know what life's gonna throw at you. So I spent a decent amount of money at that time, you know, $600 on a couch that I had to get rid of because unfortunately, like around the pandemic, I had to move out of that apartment because my landlord was selling the entire building and I couldn't stay there. So I had no choice but to move in with my partner in his studio. That couch that I spent $600 on had to be donated to somebody. There was no way that that couch would have fitted in a small studio. If you're familiar with studios, it's either you have a couch or you have a bed. You have to choose which one. Moral of the story, I wish I would have never spent $600 on that couch back then. I wish I would have gotten something cheap, something like a starter couch for my first apartment. Also, ask family members if they want to get rid of a couch that they're not using. It doesn't even have to be like a sectional or something big. It could be something simple like a love seat. It doesn't have to be something big. Again, your first apartment is a starter apartment. You're just starting out on your own. You're trying to figure things out for the first time on your own. So I think buying expensive furniture right away is just not ideal. Save that money for when you are truly ready financially and you're truly ready like when it comes to your style, and you know, if you're not gonna move for a while and these are pieces that you're gonna take with you to the next place, like if you're very certain that you're not gonna end up moving to a studio where you have to get rid of everything, or you're not gonna end up moving back home with your parents, because you know, that happens a lot too, especially with how the economy is and how expensive everything is. A lot of people are moving back with their parents, which I think is so smart. Instead of like getting into debt, if you have the chance to move back with your parents and to start over, do that and save your money as much as you can and get out of debt while staying at your parents if you have that choice. So expensive furniture, I just don't think it's worth it for your first apartment. Now this is going to be a little controversial, but I wanted to mention it because it's so important, and I have a little story that goes with this. And what I'm talking about is pets. Now when I got my first apartment in 2017, I wanted a cat so bad, but my landlord said no. And on the lease that I signed, it said no pets. I respected the rules. I respected her. I am not the type of person to break rules. Rules are in place for a reason. I'm not a rebel. I follow the rules, and that's that. I waited and waited until 2021 when we moved here. I ended up adopting a kitten. This is gonna be hopefully our last apartment, and we will be moving to a house, but that's been pretty hard to get these days. Another story for another day. But we ended up getting a cat here, and it has been the toughest, I don't want to cry, but it has been the toughest ride with trying to keep my cat alive. I adopted him at 7 weeks old, and he has had back to back to back health problems, from worms and parasites in his stomach to ear mites to a rare tumor in his mouth where we had to do emergency surgery and get all his teeth pulled out here. We thought he wasn't going to survive with that too, because we thought we would have to remove his jaw. After the tumor, he ended up being positive for FIP, which is a rare disease, and luckily they have treatments for it now. Very expensive treatments, by the way. As I mentioned, in all these health problems, my bank account, like my savings account, is completely gone. And I will, I'm very grateful that I was able to save his life. I love animals. I grew up with animals. I was okay with spending all of my savings to help my cat. I've also had quite a few donations from my channel, which I'm so grateful for. And then even after FIP, it took a year to cure him. After all of that, he then got another thing, which was a urinary tract situation. So now he's on a special diet that costs me around $150 to $180 a month. I give a range because the prices fluctuate constantly with his food. So anyways, I know that was a mouthful, but if I was to get a cat back in 2017 in my first apartment, mentally I was not ready. I mean, I was 26, 27 years old. I was not ready mentally, financially. I was just starting out on my own. So I never thought of like health issues. I've always thought of just having a cute kitty in the house. Never did I ever think of like, oh my goodness, this is like having a child. Like, you have to take them to the doctor. You have to take them to the dentist. You have to care for them. Long story short, pets are extremely, extremely expensive. He actually just turned 4 years old. All these years of having him, it has cost us over $30,000. And I'm so grateful that I had that money saved and I didn't get into debt. But the aftermath now is my savings is nearly gone, is dried out. So I have to like start all over with my emergency fund. And I just wish I was a little bit smarter with the things that come with adopting a pet. It is more than what people think. It's more than just cuddles and fluff. There's a lot more that comes with it. And there's been quite a few nights that I honestly thought he was gonna die. And it was the saddest time of my life. We've spent some pretty long nights at the vet ER in numerous locations. But yeah, it was a lot. I know I'm like crying, almost crying here, but it was a lot. It was a lot mentally, financially. It was very draining. And I feel like when you get your first apartment, you're just trying to get in the mix of like bills and all of this stuff. I don't think adding a pet is the right move. I feel like people should wait, just like some people wait to have kids until they're ready. So if your landlord allows pets with your first apartment, try to take a step back and think of what that entails. Do you have enough for vet bills? Do you have enough for like if your pet has a rare disease? Can you afford to cure them? Can you afford to save them? Does your pet need a special diet that costs hundreds of dollars a month? It's definitely one of those things where it's like, think before you do it. Like, think thoroughly before you do it. Next is large TVs, like giant TVs. Not worth it. If you are a huge like movie person, if you're not, I went with my first apartment the entire 3 years of me living alone and with living in my partner's studio. So technically 4 years. 4 years, we didn't have any TV. We just used my laptop. Laptop, phone, that's what I used for many years. Now, when we moved in here, we ended up getting a projector, which is right over there. And that has been one of the best things that we have ever purchased for this place. We can have movie night in the living room. We can have movie night in the bedroom. Heck, we can have movie night in the bathroom if we want to. We don't do that, but you kind of get what I'm saying here. With having a projector instead of this giant TV, you can kind of like move it around. You could do a lot of things with it. It's so easy to move. You don't have to have a TV mount and drill holes into the wall, which most landlords do not allow, and I totally get that. I advise you guys not to get a large TV that requires a TV mount. My biggest advice is to get a projector. It again has been phenomenal, and when we do get a house, we can even bring that projector outside and have like a movie night outside in the summer. There's just so many things you can do with a projector, and it's so tiny and light. I swear it weighs less than 4 pounds. Super light, and we didn't have to drill any walls or do anything crazy like that. And the last thing is kind of self-explanatory, but I just wanted to talk about it really quick, and that is having both blinds and curtains for your first apartment. When I lived alone, my apartment came with blinds, and I had this bright idea to buy room darkening curtains for my apartment. And I ended up buying, I think it was 8 panels, and each window needed 2 panels. So it was very expensive, and I ended up just putting curtains in the living room. The window situation, I wish I would have never spent the money on curtains because it already had blinds. So I could have saved that money and just dealt with what I had. I learned my lesson after I purchased the curtains for the living room, and I was like, you know what? I'm not buying a curtain for the kitchen, and I'm not buying curtains for my bedroom. I'm just going to keep the blinds. If I want to open to get some light, I can just open the blind, and that's that. I'm also not a fan of having both. When we do move, my partner and I both agreed, I just like having curtains. I'm not a fan of blinds at all. I don't like cleaning them. I think they're a pain in the butt. So I prefer curtains, and I just don't think having curtains and blinds is worth it. For an example, we have 2-panel curtains in our bedroom. That's actually from the studio that we used to live in. We used to use that for the balcony, and we're living here. When we moved in, the balcony has a blind, so we didn't need a curtain for that. So we repurposed those 2-panel curtains for the bedroom because there's only one window. And the window does come with a blind, but I hate opening it. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just use the curtains let's repurpose the curtains and use them for here and not use the blind. And that's what we've been doing for 4 years. I haven't touched that blind in the window for 4 years. We just use the curtain. It's so much easier to clean, easier to open up, no blinds get broken. It's so much easier. I hope I'm making sense with this, but buying both is a waste. And if your apartment comes with blinds and you don't have curtains, don't buy curtains. Now, if your apartment comes with blinds and you already have curtains, you can use them, definitely. But to have both, I do not see the purpose. I just feel like it's an extra step that you have to clean the blinds, you have to clean the curtains. It's just too much. Anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoy this video. And for those of you that are watching that are either getting your first apartment or you're in your first apartment, I'm wishing you the best of luck. Trust me, it gets better over time, and you will get the hang of it. With living alone and just trying to do this whole adult life. I remember when I was younger, living alone, I was terrified, and I wish there were videos like this to help me through that process. So again, I hope this was helpful, and I will catch you in the next one.